Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I am sitting with Amanda Catarzi Hengst, who is also known as the Millionaire Muse, and she is a survivor of sex and labor trafficking who transformed her extraordinary experiences from negotiating child slave releases in Myanmar to dismantling trafficking rings into trauma informed business strategies that propel her clients from five figure years to six-figure months through strategic content and compelling storytelling. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, thanks for being on the show. This is going to be an interesting conversation. We have a lot of ground to cover. But before we go into that, we do like to have an icebreaker on the show. And the question for you today is, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most and why?
The first one that pops into my head is Buttercup from Powerpuff Girls because she's like a tomboy. She's got the black hair. She's kind of a badass, and so I think just my I like to think that I'm like that, and I think people would describe me similar to that kind of figure.
I like that one, Buttercup. I like that one. It's a good one. And so, just while we slide into things here, then, how would you define procrastination and what does it mean to you personally?
Would be some sort of fear of not being enough is how I would think people arrive at that. They're procrastinating, they're putting it off because maybe they're not going to do it right, or subconsciously maybe they think they're not good enough or smart enough or strategic enough, and so they're trying to buy time because when people want more time, they're usually buying time to gather more data. So to me, procrastination seems like a subconscious attempt to buy more time, get more information and data so that they can execute properly.
I like that. I like that definition. And we all know that there's no silver bullet or one cure fixes all for everybody, but what's been your secret sauce to overcoming procrastination?
Just getting over myself, like getting over the fact that I might not be enough, might not be good enough, it might not be perfect. You just have to get over yourself and get over, because that's what it is. It's an ego thing. It's not you actually want to do well. No, you actually don't want to look like an idiot, is really the underlying thing driving that hesitation. Is you don't want to fail, which is a great bumper. It's a great kind of course correct system, but when it hinders any action at all, it becomes a crutch and becomes toxic and it's not good anymore. So yeah, that would be my kind of assessment of that, is like you just have to get over yourself, because I know that as a business owner in social work in every area of my life, action creates clarity. And it doesn't have to be some big action, even. It could be the smallest micro movement towards accomplishing that thing or starting that thing. And then once that action starts and once you turn on the car and start driving it, you start remembering how to get to, that one Italian joint that had delicious spaghetti and meatballs. Whereas if you just sit in your house and try to think about it, it's not going to jog your memory.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Getting into that sort of fear of being judged, the witch wound. Is that what you were getting at there?
Sure. Yeah, fear of being judged, fear of being exposed. That when you don't think, what's the imposter syndrome? They'll find out I'm actually not good. Well, you might not be. So go figure it out. The rest of the world is in the same position. And if it's not you, then who's going to do it? Probably someone less qualified.
Hmm. That reminds me of a couple of things. You just tickled that little memory there of what was the saying? You rise to the highest level of your incompetence.
Yep. Well,
You know, yeah.
what you don't know what you don't know. And the more and more I interact with high net worth people or powerful people, the more I realize like they don't know what they're doing either. We're all figuring it out. So go figure it out.
I like that. I like that. Go figure it out. So I'm curious to dive into this a little bit because one of the things that I find really interesting is that you say that you have trauma informed business strategies. Could you maybe outline what you mean by that for our listeners?
Yeah, it's probably not what people think at face value. Even though I believe in definitely being trauma informed. Obviously, I was in social work for 8 years and have a past of my own, but more so using understanding the basics of human needs and how to leverage those in business to get what you want and get to where you want to be. So think more 48 laws of power.
Okay. And what are some of the things that we need to be aware of as we're making those strategies?
Again, just basic human needs, because in marketing you have to learn how to leverage emotions in order to get people to buy or to take action or to move. And same in life, when you're trying to get your wife to agree to go eat at the wing place instead of the place she wants to eat, or when you're trying to get your kid to go to bed and they don't want to go to bed, it's all negotiation, it's all sales. So learning how to tap into the most underlying primal current in their system is what's going to get you the result you want. And as a writer, as a copywriter, that is my core fundamental. How can I do that with words? How can I anticipate your reaction and then follow up with more words that are going to get you to do what I want you to do?
No, you said something interesting there, and I think it's one thing that people who don't like marketing maybe don't want to tap into, because I know I've had, 3 or 4 different business coaches that, said basically the same thing that you said, but they said it differently. They wanted to really hone in on the fear and consequence action of it. And while we see a lot of fear-based marketing in our world, I don't know, it just seems like there might be a better way to go. And you mentioned the strong emotions. I mean, that I guess that gives us fear, sex, and maybe love or enjoyment to
Sure.
focus on.
Those are like probably the, I was just talking about this with my students as well, that those are the easily accessible and easily identifiable. And what creates a good marketer from a great marketer is being able to go a level deeper. So I would suggest that curiosity is actually a much stronger emotion than any of those. Curiosity has incredible power to transform a person, to kill a person, to change a person, to do anything. So if I can create curiosity, an insatiable curiosity that gets you to go from step 1 to step 2, that's all I got to do. I don't have to make you fall in love with me. I don't have to be afraid. And I would kind of suggest that fear and love could also be curiosity as well, right? Fear is you're curious if something bad's going to happen. Love is you're curious if, this is a soul connection, if this is going to give you what you really desire. So I like to tap into even deeper emotions, because we all have labels about, or definitions, I guess, of what those things are. And to me, fear, FOMO, consequence, pain points, those are very cheap emotions. And so when you're selling cheap things and need a quick result, a quick turnover, like you're selling a pen for $5, and you need a quick turnover and you want a quick sale, and you're not trying to get a long-term client potentially, then you start with fear. But at some point in that nurture process, you have to transition them over into love, to where they actually fall in love with that pen and they don't want to write with any other pen but that pen. So they keep ordering that pen over and over and over again. It's no longer fear, now it's love. And that there's a graduation to that process. And in the nurturing sequence, that you have to take the customer, the individual along for them to be a long term client, a return purchaser. So that's true for any brand. That's true for relationships, right? We get afraid of being alone, so we go seek company. But eventually it turns into love, and you choose to stay with that person and build a life with them. Same in sales, same in copywriting.
You said something interesting there, and I want to get your take on it, because do you think then that marketing is now, say, getting exponentially harder as time goes on? Let's say, as a, compared to 10 years ago, because we're losing this curiosity factor in humanity.
We're majority of the people I coach struggle to write because they're so disassociated from their emotions, because we're all just conditioned to get just positive reinforcement all the time. We have, the microwave, we have instant results. The TV, we've got instant results. YouTube, we have instant dopamine hits. We are so overwhelmed with dopamine constantly on a physiological level, scientific level, all the way up to a mental health level, that people don't even know what they're feeling anymore. So they start to become numb and disassociated. So, how can I make you feel something different that will jolt you back into reality and take you on a different journey, reroute you? So I think it's requiring, and that's why I was really excited when AI came out. People are like, it's the end of copywriting. Absolutely not. It's the end of poor copywriting. And it's the era of great copywriters. And the divide is getting super wide with AI. So yeah, I think it is much harder because people are much more disassociated from emotions, which makes our job that much more important. To get you to get back in your body and to engage back in reality is what I'm called to do with words. It's pretty noble. I'm helping people feel again.
No, I like that. I like that vision. Making people feel again. Because I know that I can definitely relate that I was switched off for many years for sure. So yeah, just getting people in touch with their feelings again is definitely a noble cause. I wanted to touch on something you said there as well, where you said that you believe that AI is not the death of writers; it's the death of poor writers. Sort of paraphrasing. How do you stand out? Because we're literally in the needle and proverbial haystack. I mean, we're looking at 10,000 books. Okay, that's just books on one platform released every single day. Not to mention I don't even want to hazard a guess now. Is it 100, 200, 10,000, 50,000 articles or clippets written every single day? So how do we stand out in that when we have to cater to the algorithm, which apparently loves these very similarly formatted things?
Well, you can keep the same format, but the content and what you're talking about and to who needs to become insanely niched. So you're not trying to meet the masses. I'm not trying to be everyone's friend. I'm not trying. Not everyone is my client. Oh God, that'd be horrible. I would be so overwhelmed. It would be terrible. Not everyone I'm trying to reach. And people think that just because the format is the same, the message has to be the same. And that's not the case. Everything's positionable. And yes, a format works, but what are you actually saying? What words are you choosing? And why are you choosing that adjective over another one? Why are you describing it this way and not this way? And where you get hyper focused and where copywriters really and content writers really come into play and make a big difference in a business is understanding that. And you're taking who the brand is, who the person is, and then who their ideal client is or customer is, and you're merging those two things together, and you're using those words, that terminology, that mental state to create that message. And that's what's going to resonate and change. So you have to become hyper niche and hyper focused. And you'll still get people on the outside. So, like, even on my current website, I might change it all the time just to test different headlines and whatnot. But I always say that I write for men, I write for male coaches in info services. I always say that because I know I can crush that. Even though I say I write for male coaches, I get so many women trying to qualify themselves for me to write for them, begging me to write for them. They're like, I know I'm a woman, but I'm more masculine and direct and da da da. It's hilarious. It does not cut out an entire population. It does not keep me from getting clients. It actually makes them want and beg to be my client. I don't even have to sell them. It does the opposite. People want what they can't have. And as soon as you take it away from them, they're going to sell themselves on why they need you to write for them.
I like that. And can I ask why the written word? And with all the technological advances, we've got videos, we've got podcasts, we've got radio, we've got TV, we've got articles and books. So why choose the written form over say video form in the
Because most of it all starts with written. I mean, first there's spoken, right? That was the first thought, maybe thought to spoken. But words that are written are it's one of the most basic forms of communication and one of the oldest forms of communication. It has transcended generations over and over again. You still have books in print. That's crazy. That books are still in print. People still I obviously still buy books in print. I love books in print. I love reading something, holding it, the pages, the crinkle of it, the smell. It just is transcended time for so long. And for me personally, growing up, I wasn't allowed to speak my opinion or have a voice or to be my own person. So I turned to journaling to express myself. That was my only safe place. So it's been a place, an oasis for me my entire life. So I love to share that with other people. And that's what makes it valuable to me.
I like that. You're right. Maybe not in two generations where they may not know, but that I know what you mean. That smell, that it's like the paper smell or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I get it. Just circling back onto AI, I want to get your opinions on this. Since we're talking about AI potentially, again, many people are doing this as a replacement and not as an enhancement. But aside from that, your big argument, I believe, with AI is that it's going to be on the creative side, right? Where it's not going to be able to come up with something that's going to really connect on a deep level. Is that sort of the idea with that?
I think eventually it'll get enough data to where it can copy that message, but you're going to have to, there's a human. Ugh, let me start over. There's so many thoughts running through my head right now. That AI will be, at some point probably be able to take over this part. Will it have a soul? Absolutely not. I have a mystical belief that the act of creating is a spiritual one. God was the first to create, and that everything else has been a replication or copy of it. So when you create as a painter, as an artist, as a writer, whatever, you're manifesting the divine character of God and creating a spiritual, energy, soul connection with somebody else. So when another human interacts with that piece of art, whatever you're manifesting while creating that, that's now a portal, an invitation into that frequency. So, with that belief and with that conviction, I'm very careful about how I create, what I'm creating out of, the intention behind it, because there's a responsibility to it. And I believe that's why we see art, music transform people, change people, make them cry, make them weep. They don't even know why they're crying when they look at art or encounter certain things, because it's on a spiritual level that it's shifting people. And I'm not sure, I mean, maybe there's a science to it, maybe there's a formula to it, and maybe AI will figure that part out. I hope not. I don't think it will. But yeah, I have that belief, and I do believe it to be a tool that we can use to help us progress, but I don't think it'll ever be able to generate that kind of soul vibrational connection. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you raise an interesting point because as you were saying that, I was going through and I was thinking about the AI generated images and videos that I've been playing around with, and some of them are very good, and the more data you have, the more direction you give, it's very good. But if you give it a very basic direction, it'll come up with something that's like really distorted or has like different things that are going on with it. I'm wondering if maybe that's just because it's just pulling from everything and there's no real direction. And the difference between that, like you said, that spiritual component maybe was that there's more direction in it, maybe.
Sure, yeah, I would say intention is direction. So I like that's why I say maybe it'll figure that out, and maybe, I mean, it is science, vibrational energetic science. So potentially maybe it'll figure out that system, and then in that case people like me will pivot and transfer into becoming directors of that energy, or quality control over that. So I think we need to be open minded in that fact of, yeah, maybe AI can become better writer than me, and then I just kind of manage it. That's a potential.
No, I like that, but when I have these different discussions on AI, I like to dive deeper just because everybody likes to look on the surface of it. Do you personally have any concerns about AI as it relates to um, being kind of detrimental to that human connection at all?
I think that the next couple of generations, I'm worried about them feeling empty because they're engaging with empty, soulless art or music or whatever that the AI creates. It's not, it's a hollow reality. So even when we see like movies and people have their VR sets and they're interacting in the VR world, it's a very hollow, cheap counterfeit that's being given to people, and they're consuming it as if it's not a hollow, cheap counterfeit. They're consuming it as if it's something nutritional for their mental health and for their soul. And I worry about future generations, the suicide rates going up, mental health becoming more and more of an issue because they're engaging in hollow things and they can't understand why they feel hollow, because it looks like the same thing, it sounds like the same thing, but it doesn't give them the same thing. So they think that the problem is with them. It's not, it's with what you're consuming. So that's where I get a little bit worried, and that's where I'm seeing things already start to fray and fall apart with the 20-year-olds, the teenagers of today, is they expect to feel happy all the time and they can't understand why they can't feel, because you're consuming soulless things and cheap dopamine hits.
No, I like what you said there about they're consuming these soulless things, and it's true. And like, why aren't they happy? Well, I have a very real example from the 90s about why people don't feel happy when they get certain things. It's because people don't know what they want. And largely they're relying on, well, now it's social media, but before it was advertisements and other things and jingles to tell you what you wanted, Oscar Mayer wieners, McDonald's, those little toys. I mean, I had this experience when I guess I was 7 or 8. There's this particular toy, it was a Beetlejuice car action figure on TV. I'm dating myself, I know. And the kids all looked so happy using it. And I really, really wanted that car. I really, really wanted it. I got it. And I played with it for like 20 minutes. I'm like, this is it? Yeah. Okay. No.
Not as happy as those kids.
No. And that's the problem because at that point, I really would have loved somebody to sit down with me and maybe say to me, like, hey, why aren't you playing with it anymore? And just be like, I don't know. I just didn't feel like I want. And then, have somebody go through that with me and say, well, why did you want it? Because I think that if I had been able to put those two things together, then I wouldn't have gone through much of my later adult life through going for things that people told me I should have to be happy.
Well, yeah. And that's where, again, that responsibility for creators, advertisers, copywriters that I was mentioning about, we have great power, great responsibility. So am I going to sell something or write about something that I know isn't going to fulfill? Like, where's my integrity with that? And I'm at a place in life to where I can pick and choose who I work with. Super grateful for that. And I always tell people, I have the power to make you very successful. And I want to make sure that I'm making the right people and the right things successful. And so I have a pretty, I do a lot of research now because I've made the wrong people successful before. And it was a big learning lesson and a big wake up call to me to never do that again. And so now I vet people pretty thoroughly before I work with them, and I have to question them about why their whys behind things, their motivation, their intention, where they're taking it, why are we doing this, why are we writing this? I mean, I interrogate the heck out of them. I'm surprised anybody wants to work with me. But I think it's that integrity. They appreciate that because they realize the integrity, the intention, and the time I put into that to make them. And that's again why I make people successful, is because of all that.
No, and I really like that your process there, because a lot of times what we get is just, like, prefabricated things. And you're right. I mean, you can be really, really successful and then just not do anything good with that.
Right.
And just sliding into the AI theory just a little bit more. I want to get your thoughts on this too. Your biggest concern was more about this connecting with the soullessness, but I had this worry that people aren't going to want traditional relationships anymore because, like, why would I go out and very personally I had this discussion with my daughter because I thought I'd be having a discussion about romantic interest in a boy, but apparently it's very normal now for them to have AI boyfriends because they don't argue, they don't talk back, they don't say your butt looks big in a dress, they don't do whatever, right? And so I guess my concern would be is that if kids are growing up with that, at some point, how do we replenish the species and how do we even have relationships if that's what we're used to?
Yeah, 100%. I have a friend who has a whole, he used to run an OnlyFans management company. And then the girls were always giving him grief. They were sick. They didn't want to do this. They were always a headache for him. And he wrote a program and created a bunch of AI generated girls and makes tons of money with them. Tons of money with them. He doesn't have to deal with real people. He actually, while he was doing a bunch of research to do this and to make the girls what men want, he got really depressed, and he's like, it's men are so lonely, and it's so horrific how many men are alone and they just want support, they just want companionship, they just want affirmation. They don't they don't need a lot. I think as one of the last generations to understand that, we might be one of the last generations. It's our responsibility to put that into people. Again, that's a hollow relationship. If I don't have enough money to keep my AI romantic partner going, God, that's like a breakup. That could lead to more mental health issues. If a robot AI person doesn't want me, then how the hell am I going to get a normal person to want me? Like if I can't even do that, then what kind of person am I? And I do worry again about the soullessness of it and the fallout. And that is one of my biggest problems again with training the young copywriters is they don't know how to. I'm like, "Oh, just write it how you would talk to somebody." They don't talk to people. I'm like, well, how would you say this to a girl? They don't talk to girls, you know? So, hey, buddy. So they don't really know how to do that. And that's probably one of my biggest issues is like, okay, your assignment is to go outside to a real place, to Walmart, to Target, and have 3 conversations with strangers. And that is the most horrific thing I could do to them. They're like, oh, they can barely process that. And I'm like, how? This is communication 101. If you're not communicating, how the hell am I supposed to teach you how to write? How to get in other people's heads?
No, you have a point there. That we're just so deep down on our phones, we don't have small talk, and it's actually I can understand why they wouldn't want to do that because I'm a friendly guy. I like to consider I'm a friendly guy, but most people when you're out on the street, and I've again it's not all, but I'm noticing the trend more. Most people are either stuck in their phones or they're stuck talking or they're stuck off in their own little world. So when you approach them the interactions are usually like rejection, 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 rejection. What the hell are you doing, you weirdo? Get on your phone, sort of deal.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think it is too about intention. So, like a lot of these kids, when they go to DM somebody or try to do sales, to sell their services, they're so terrible. God, they're so bad. They're so bad because they're trying to get someone to do something. You know that feeling when someone cold DMs you and is like, oh God, here we go. Someone's cold DMing you and it's terrible. And I'm like, but your intention isn't to sell them. Your intention is to bring them value. And that just so happens to be a skill that you offer. But the
Mhm.
intention needs to be first and foremost to bring value. So even in person, if you compliment somebody on their shoes, your intention shouldn't be, I need to get this homework done for Amanda so that I can move forward in my course. No, your intention should be like, I want to make this person feel happy. I love oh my gosh, I love your shoes. Those are awesome. Thanks. You're only getting rejected because people can subconsciously sense your intention. So check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Okay, that's interesting. I never really considered that, but that's pretty true. You pick up on that vibe, and it's you know
People are just assholes. That's true. Sometimes people are just projecting. But I like to take extreme ownership of anybody who interacts with me needs to walk away feeling awesome.
no, I like that. Have that positivity vibe, but yeah, I could just see how, you know, running the gauntlet with you, they'd be like, go out there and talk to that lady, talk to that guy in the bar, or talk to the other lady in the bar, or no, worse, go up to that little old lady who's counting those pennies out on the conveyor belt, and you ask her about her day. And if you can do that and sit through the 40-minute dialogue after,
Yeah.
you're probably doing all right.
Well, it's not about you. And that's their problem. They're thinking, well, okay, I got to go do this for me. No, how about you go give value? How about you go give someone the gift of listening, of your time, of that 40 minutes? A poor old lady. Do you understand that that's going to be you 50 years if you don't get your shit together and learn how to communicate with people? You're going to be dying for someone to listen to you about your day and about what you ate and about your pills and your aches and pains. Like, God, you're gonna be so alone, and you're worried about your time, your 40 minutes. You've got so much life to live. You can't give this woman 40 minutes of care, of kindness. We got a bigger problem.
We do have a bigger problem. I've come into this on LinkedIn numerous times. I don't get on any other social media, so I'm only on LinkedIn. So I kind of treat that as my social place, social and business place, and probably doing it the wrong way. But the thing is that I talked to a woman before, no names or anything, but she was also a kind of a copywriter and things like that. And her line of articles and her line of reasoning was, well, if you're not buying from me, I don't want to talk to the tire kickers. I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk to people for 15 minutes or 20 minutes if you have no intention of buying from me. It's a waste of my energy, my time, and that's paraphrasing. And I was so taken aback by that. And I have one example, one solid example of why that person is wrong. And it has to do with a digital marketing agency locally in Canada, in Ottawa, family owned boutique, right? Now, for some background, there were, up until last year, 275 digital marketing agencies just in this area, including that small boutique agency. And guess how many are there today? There are exactly five that are still up and operational. And the reason is not the one that I'm specifically mentioning is not because they work on, they had something that I absolutely loved. It was called Jesse Peralt. He's the CEO of Soap Media. He put out there 500 cups of coffee. So he literally just sat down, with for 500 cups of coffee, no intention of selling, no intention of doing anything else, just getting to know people and making a network. And he got his wife out of that, and he also got like 10 or 15 really solid relationships that are always doing referrals and always doing these other things. And he didn't sell anybody. And so I think that we're missing the point that, like you said, connecting with someone, even if you just connect with them, it's not a waste of time, right?
No, 100%. Who was it? Was it Carnegie that said that if you seek to solve people's problems, you'll become the richest person in the world? Somebody said that. Somebody famous, somebody big said that. But like that's how I was taught by my father, by my parents to be is like you solve problems. That's why you're put here on this earth is to serve others, like a servant's mentality and not like belittle myself, but to seek to help others. And if you seek to help others, you will never be without money. And now I'm saying that there's boundaries, like let's add some common sense into there, let's add some boundaries into there, right? But I was super grateful because my first kind of sales gig that I was trained for, because I was doing sales since I was a little kid, I've just been an entrepreneur, born into it, was with First Form, which is a supplement company. And their training to be an ambassador, an affiliate for them, was that you meet with everybody. And even if they don't need your services, you make sure that you meet whatever their need is right now. And so, like, they're like, even if they need tires, make sure you refer them to a great tire place because you want to become the solution. And if people think of you as the solution, then once they finally need that thing that you're offering, guess who they're going to come to? It's going to be you. And I've made so much money off of referrals, so much money off of saying, I don't do that, but I do know somebody who does. So much incredible. Like I have this one young man, he taught me the art of cold calling when I was in high school. And I wrote in my journal, I actually have a picture of it, that I'm going to make Zach Davis a lot of money one day. And then I ran a wholesale company. He was doing freights. Guess who I hired to do all of my freights for that multi-million-dollar wholesale company? Zach Davis. And I'm like, did it. It took me a while, but I got it done. Those are the kind of relationships. And he would do anything for me. I would do anything for him. We never talk. We never talk until we like have something going on. Right. And then I'm like, oh, let me hit up Zach and see who he has for this. He does the same exact thing with me. We've made a lot of money from each other. I have so many relationships like that. It's not about sales, it's about connection. It's about solving problems.
I like that about solving problems. I'm always a bit of a smartass with that though, because whenever somebody asks me if they could do anything else or whatever, I just say, "Can you do my taxes for me? Like, just fill that out."
And I'd be like, you know what? I've got someone great for you. Hold on a real second. And I'd offer you a referral. And if you book with them, I get paid. So if you need your taxes done, I've got someone. So you can try to be smart ass all you want, sir. I've got solutions.
I like that. I like that. Pull out the old. I keep using this example. Maybe you have a better one. I keep saying in my Rolodex because I know what a Rolodex is and I can picture what it is, but nobody else knows what it is. What do you
I
say?
I use that all the time. I just say in my network, or I just might have someone. I think I have someone who can help you out. Let me text them really quick, and I'll literally text them while I'm on the meeting with them, because words are cheap, actions speak volumes, and I'll be like, oh, here, I texted them, and then I'll show it to them. So then I'm like, I'm doing it, and then they feel obligated to do the same. They're like, well, I don't need your copywriting service, but you know what? My friend so and so, I think you guys would be a good fit, and now I have a referral. You get what you give.
Yeah. So instead of the ABCs, which was Wolf of Wall Street, always be closing, right? Was it ABN, always be network?
Yeah. I mean, truly, your network is your net worth. It has given my network has been the primary source of success for me. And it started off with me just saying yes and just freaking showing up in person, showing up and volunteering and giving my time and giving my resources. And then that has paid, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars in ROI. If we wanted to run it up, it'd be a lot of.
I like that, and I love the fact that we put more emphasis on the human connections, and I really like that. This has been a really great conversation, Amanda. Really interesting points going through. We are coming up pretty close to the time. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked but didn't ask, or anything you wish we could have covered but didn't cover today?
No, I had fun. You had a lot of great questions. I love getting into the soul of AI. I think it's super relevant, and I think it needs to be talked about us having a responsibility and a role to play along with AI to make sure our society continues to thrive.
Definitely, it definitely does. Just before we go, what is the best way for our listeners to get in touch?
Honestly, go on Instagram, Instagram or LinkedIn. I live on Instagram. That's where I do all my sales. Basically, that's where you can find me any time of the day. And I love LinkedIn as well. So Amanda Catarzi.
Sounds good. And don't worry, we will have that in the show notes for you, so it's easy enough for you to get and click on there. And once again, Amanda, thank you so much for being on the show. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation or inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time.